Hello, so I'm back today with my racism lessons, examples, sharing, etc., whatever you want to call it. And today I just kind of wanted to give some examples of what it feels like to be a minority. So, as a white person, I want you to picture this. Picture And I want you to picture it honestly, because we're getting real here, and real growth comes from taking uncomfortable, ugly looks at yourself. So it's important to not get defensive. No one can see you watching this video if you do choose to watch it, but just some food for thought. So I want you to really picture the scenario. If you were to see a group of white boys, maybe like 18 plus, over, a group of them on a park, how would you feel walking past? Would you just look at them and, or maybe just on observation driving by in a car, would you look at them and think, oh my God, danger, what are they up to? Or would you go, just a group of boys on a park? Now picture the same park, the same position, but a group of black boys, the same age group, sat on the park. Or how would you feel if you were walking by? Would you feel uncomfortable? Would you feel afraid? Would you feel self-conscious? Food for thought. Food for thought. This is what it feels. I'm trying to give some examples, and I wasn't going to do this, but then since I made that post, like, the examples have just been coming in my head, and I've been like getting riled up and writing down loads of examples, just because it baffles me that people don't think that racism is a thing, but we see it every day. You encounter it every day, or you contribute to it every day. So I don't understand that. I can't quite comprehend that people don't think it's a real thing when things like that happen. And you might go, well, that doesn't mean I'm racist because I was scared, or because I assumed that a group of black men on a park were up to no good. Maybe it doesn't make you racist, but you need to ask yourself, why are you thinking that way about black people? Because we're all people, right? If you were to walk into a pub and there was just black people in there, would you feel out of place as a white person? Would you feel uncomfortable? Would you feel like everyone was looking at you? Would you feel a bit self-aware? How do you think I feel walking into bodega? This is what I mean. You know, how would you feel if you walked into a room full of any kind of minority group? A room full of Indian people, would you feel out of place? Would you feel uncomfortable? Probably yes. This is the problem. This is how it feels, kind of. And not to the full extent, but I'm trying to give small glimpses into what it feels like to be a person of colour. The difference being, if you're a white person and you walked into a pub full of black people, you could just leave that pub and go into a pub full of white people and go, this is normal. Though if you walked into a pub full of black people, you'd probably be thinking like, oh, there must be some kind of function happening. Oh, maybe there's an event happening. This is odd. Whereas if you walked into a pub and the majority of people were white, you would be like, you wouldn't even question it. You would think, yeah, that's normal. And so when I was trying to explain in my video that I feel self-aware as a black person constantly, it's not just something that I'm aware of sometimes, it's something I'm aware of all the time. This is a classic example as of how and why, because literally, if you're a white person, you walked into a room full of black people, or if you're in a group full of black people, if you went to the park, if you did something with 5 of your black friends and you were the only white person, or 5 of your friends of colour and you were the only white person, you would, I'm sure, at some point make a comment and go, oh, I'm the only white one. Well, this is how it is for your black friends all the time, or this is how it is for your friends of colour, not even just black, all the time. But we don't go around going, oh, I'm the only black person. We just get on with it. So it's funny to me when we're in groups like that, where the dynamic shifts and you can see that the white person is so aware of their race, because it is really like trading shoes. That's how it feels, but all the time. That's how it feels when we go to jobs. We walk in and everyone's white and we're the only black person. That's how it feels when we go to schools and we walk in and we're the only minority person. That's how it feels when we go to anywhere. You know, when I was growing up, I was super into alternative music, rock music, indie music, and I used to go to loads of like hardcore gigs and be the only black person and feel so uncomfortable and out of place. But and people always look at you like, oh my god, you're into this kind of music? Like, why is that weird? We're all people. It doesn't matter what skin color you are, you can be into so many different things. This is how it feels, kind of. Just a small glimpse to be a person of color. And so I'm just trying to share these kind of examples with you to kind of show you a different perspective of what it is like, because a lot of people don't understand when I go, well, how can you feel that every day? But I know for a fact that if I was to have a family party and you were to be the only white person there, you would be very aware of it. Well, that's how I feel on the day-to-day, and that's how a lot of people of colour feel day-to-day, and we don't say anything about it, we get on with it. And that's just what I wanted to share today. No, I'm not done. One more example. So for me, I grew up in a very mixed area. When I moved to Nottingham when I was younger, I went to very mixed schools, so being around people of all races was very normal to me. And then I moved to the area that I live in now, and had to switch schools, and that was the first time I had really experienced racism as like an 8-year-old. At the school I went to, I was the only black, I think I was black, there was another boy that was mixed race, and an Indian girl, and that was it in the whole school. And I was just shocked because like at my old school, my head teacher was black when I was younger, and like there was no minority really at my old like school. There was such a mixture of people, and that's really encouraging to grow up in as a young person. But I shortly realised that that isn't how life really realistically is. Yeah, so I went to this school. They were super racist to me. So like after like 6 weeks or something, my mum moved me back to my old school. And then I went to secondary school, again, super mixed. My head teacher halfway through ended up being black. Really mixed. Again, normal. Then when I went to college, I had the culture shock of my life. I went to Bilborough for not very long. And I just remember like, I was the first black person that some people had ever met. And just that was kind of when I had a rude awakening, because I was just like, I'm their first impression of they've never met anyone that isn't white ever, and they're like 17 years old at this point. And obviously Bilborough is a big college, and I was just so shocked, like, oh my god. And so when I was at Bilborough, I was just very aware of this. I was very aware again that I was the only black person in some of my lessons. I heard a lot of, like, not completely directed at me, but I heard a lot of comments throughout my time there, like racial slurs and stuff. And I just remember feeling like, this is not a vibe. Like, this is not okay. And I also don't want to sit in a classroom and be the only black person and then feel like I have to represent all black people. I have to be on my best behaviour. I have to be as kind as possible. I have to be as pleasant as possible so that that person thinks that all black people are good. That is how it feels. Because if someone's never met a black person before, someone's never met a person of colour before, and then they meet you and they've already got all these presumptions in their head, and they meet you and you're an arsehole, then they're going to think, oh yeah, it's true what they say about black people, it's true what they say about this. So you walk around with this pressure of having to people please and be perfect all the time so that all the white people think you're a pleasant black person, and then maybe they'll actually have nicer attitudes towards black people. So that's just an example. I quit that college anyway. But yeah, if you're the only, I'm sure there's a lot of times where you have been walked into even a restaurant and been the only white person in the restaurant, and you've probably felt very aware of it. Well, that's how it feels most days. Walking down the street, going to the post office, going to co-op, thinking about going on holiday abroad, applying for jobs, dating people. You're just constantly aware of it. So yeah, just a little food for thought for you. I would highly recommend watching the YouTube experiment. Well, it's not a YouTube experiment, but it's on YouTube. It's called Jane Elliott's Blue-Eyed, Brown-Eyed Experiment. I watched it a few years ago and it's incredible. Gives you, talk about like sitting in someone else's shoes. It's intense, but it's very interesting. And if you are really willing to do the work, because let's be honest, it's not enough to just post and repost. You have to do the work. You have to do the real work. Like, this is your opening. So if you want to get uncomfortable and look and think about your attitudes, then I would highly recommend watching these videos. Anyway, I'm done for the day. I'm sure I'll come up with some more things, but peace out.